At the Clock Tower Fortress, where the city has stored all these wonderful chairs and tables and so forth that we use for this event. And this is an all-volunteer effort, so we have the Key Club from the high school, and here comes some young guys right now to help us out, and volunteers from the Historical Society. And so we're going to load about 200 to 250 chairs and take them on down to the Arsenal Cemetery and set them up and be ready for tomorrow morning.
My name is Kathy Veneer, and I've been maintaining the cemetery for 31 years. I love the military, respect them. My husband was in the military for 40 years, and I just love it down here. I want it to be like somebody's backyard, just beautiful. Oh, I love the ceremony. Yeah, anything they do down here is wonderful. The 4th of July, Memorial Day, just having visitors come and see it. They didn't even know it was here for so many years. Lots of people that lived here for as many years as I have.
Hello, my name is Marie Hoffman. I'm the president of the Excelsior German Center at the Altenheim in Oakland. I represent the German people in the Greater Bay Area, and I'm so proud to be here today to represent our veterans and also our 8 German soldiers that are buried here at the Benicia Arsenal Cemetery, the lost souls otherwise, and of course we wanted to represent them being of German ancestry. But at the same time, we like to support all the veterans here today and appreciate everything that's being done by them for us, all of us.
I'd like to welcome you today. My name is Bonnie Silvera, and on behalf of the Historical Society, we welcome you today to our Memorial Day ceremony. I would like to acknowledge some of our elected officials that are here today. We have Linda Seifert from the Supervisors of Solano County. She's standing in the back there. Vice Mayor Tom Campbell. I don't know where he's in charge of our sound system, so he's there, over there. Council members Mark Hughes and Alan Schwartzman. Brian Batteri, representing Congressman Mike Thompson's office. Our friend, my friend especially, Kathy Hoffman, representing George Miller's office. And this is the last year we'll have Kathy here representing George, so we welcome you today. On this day, we honor the memory of those veterans who gave their lives in defense of the United States Constitution and the freedoms we enjoy every day. We show our gratitude to all those men and women who serve now or who have served our country in every branch of the military. I would now like to ask all the veterans to please stand and remain standing. And then any of you that are on active duty, reserve members to please stand. And I'd like to ask the nurses from Merrill Gardens to please stand too. This event is to honor all of you who have served and who are serving. We have been granted the honor of a flyover by a KC-10 from the 60th Air Mobility Wing at Travis Air Force Base, Fairfield. We are scheduled to fly over our ceremony at around 10:25 a.m. We anticipate that the aircraft will fly from south to north at an altitude of 1,000 feet. It will come in silently, and then the pilot will throttle up. It will be loud. Today's color guard will be made up of members of the 749th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion of the California National Guard. Without further ado, I will invite you to all stand as the color guard posts the colors. I got mixed up. They will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Salute pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Retired Navy Master Chief Larry J. Miller of the Benicia Historical Society, who will lead us in a prayer.
Memorial Day 1 year ago, the 749th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion, headquartered here in Benicia, was deployed to the war zone in Iraq. That day, we all said a special prayer that they would return home safely. This they have done, and today we want to extend a special thank you for a job well done. Today, let us all remember our living veteran heroes and also those heroes that made the ultimate sacrifice, who are buried in military cemeteries across the United States. You are remembered. Those heroes buried in regular cemeteries throughout the United States. You are remembered. Those heroes buried throughout the world in the countries where they made the ultimate sacrifice. You are remembered. Also, those heroes buried in unknown places all over the world. You are remembered. We include all of these heroes in our prayers. There are many belief systems in this world of diversity. It doesn't matter whether we are religious, spiritual, or atheists. We all have our special way to pray for, honor, and give our thanks to our many heroes, both living and dead. Let each one of us offer our prayers and gratitudes in our own way for everything our troops have sacrificed for each one of us and our country. We will now have a minute of silence.
As president of the Benicia Historical Society, it is my honor to give you a brief history of the cemetery. The Benicia Army Cemetery is the oldest U.S. military post cemetery in the Pacific States. It was a post cemetery for the Benicia Barracks, which from 1849 to 1857 served as the headquarters for the U.S. Army's Pacific Division. For much of that period, Benicia Barracks contained the only Army hospital on the West Coast. The cemetery contains 211 interments dating from 1849 to 1958. These include 123 U.S. military personnel, 9 foreign military personnel who were German and Italian prisoners of war, 61 civilians, 18 of unknown affiliation, and 3 pets. Members of the Ordnance Department, Quartermaster Corps, Signal Corps, Corps of Engineers, Infantry Artillery, Cavalry, and Marine Corps are buried here. The cemetery also contains the remains of women and children who were dependents of soldiers stationed at Benicia. John Foley, who was awarded a Congressional Medal of Honor, is among the unknown. In the past, headstones were simple wood markers, and information about the deceased was painted on. Over time, this information was lost, and when the disinterred were reinterred here, the graves were marked as unknown. The earliest dated burial at this cemetery was First Lieutenant Charles E. Jarvis, who died June 8, 1849 at Sonoma, California. Emily G. Brammer, wife of Staff Sergeant Charles Brammer, died June 12, 1958, and was the last person buried in the cemetery. The Benicia Army Post Cemetery is listed on the National Register of Historic Places as part of the Benicia Arsenal, Benicia Barracks Historic District. The Benicia Historical Society sponsors its annual Memorial Day ceremony in order to remember and honor those who are buried here, as well as all men and women of the armed forces. The Benicia Historical Society would like to extend our thanks to our neighbors, Valero Refining, Imports Incorporated, to the City of Benicia Public Works Department, and especially to the groundskeepers, Catherine and James Venier, for all their valiant efforts to protect and preserve this very special place of remembrance and reflection. This year, we would like also to remember Paul Chiotti. We all knew him as Kiki. Kiki was a longtime resident of Benicia and frequently participated in this Memorial Day ceremony. He was our bugler for taps on many occasions and always added his own personal touch to the event. I have to add a little something too. Kiki and my dad were both in the Coast Guard, and they became fast friends, and they were both, their place of, I can't think of the word right now, but where they were assigned to was here at the Arsenal. So they used to always kid that they fought the Battle of the Carquinez Straits. We have Harry Wassman to thank for the beginning of the tradition of these Memorial Day ceremonies here at the Arsenal Cemetery more than 25 years ago. Thank you, Harry, for establishing the tradition that we continue and for setting the standard of excellence that we strive to meet every year. Harry makes the past more present for all of us. And I'd like to also add that since this is the last year that George will be our representative, George Miller, he and his office, his staff, were very instrumental in securing the Corps of Army Engineers to maintain this cemetery. And as you see, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous spot. So we'd like to also thank him for starting the tradition. Now for placing of the wreaths. As I call your names, please come forward to prepare for the presentations. Boy Scouts, retired Navy Master Chief Larry J. Miller of the Benicia Historical Society, Norm Leahy, Commander, American Legion, Benicia Post 101, Mark Bennett, incoming Commander, VFW Post 3928. They will be placing the wreath on the grave of the U.S. soldier. Marie Hoffman, President of the Excelsior German Center at the Altenheim in Oakland. Ingeborg Joinger is Vice President of the United States American Societies of the East Bay. And Lieutenant Colonel Peter Schnell, German Air Force Liaison Officer, Beale Air Force Base. They will lay the wreath on the grave of the German prisoner of war. Robert Ross and Lee Syracuse will lay the wreath on the grave of the Italian prisoner of war. Heather Graves and Rusty will lay the wreath on the grave of a military pet. The Sounds of Grace will perform America the Beautiful during these presentations. Please join me in standing while the wreaths are presented. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrims who stir in passion stress, a thoroughfare for freedom across the wilderness. America, America, God and thine every flaw. Confirm thy soul in self-control, by liberty in law. Oh, beautiful for heroes in liberating strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriotry that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Please be seated. Joe Fallon went to sea at 17, enlisted for the Korean War, and spent most of his military life overseas: Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Germany, and Alaska, with temporary duty in Italy, France, Senegal, Malawi, Liberia, and Nigeria. He was promoted through the ranks from recruit to lieutenant colonel. He graduated from Infantry Officers Candidate School, the University of the Philippines, U.S. Air Force Command and Staff College, and the Army Language School, both Russian and Chinese courses. Fallon commanded units at company and battalion levels. He was assigned to the organization of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, where he developed national military policy on electronic warfare. In 1970, he retired from the Army to build boats. Soon after, he accepted an invitation to rejoin his old outfit as a Department of Army civilian. Fallon spent another 20 years with the Army in Germany. He retired for the second time in 1994, and he lives with his wife Carolyn in Benicia. He practices Tai Chi daily, gardens, and writes poetry. Joel has published a number of poetry books. He reads his work at numerous venues in the Bay Area. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the City of Benicia's first poet laureate, Joel Fallon.
First, a poem by a favorite poet of mine, Constantine Kafafi. The poem is called Voices. Ideal and dearly beloved voices of those who are dead or of those who are lost to us like the dead. Sometimes they speak to us in dreams. Sometimes in thought, the mind hears them. And for a moment, with their echo, other echoes return from the first poetry of our lives, like music that extinguishes the far-off night. Recently, the Benicia Herald has been reprinting articles from the 1940s, stories about World War II, and how that war affected the citizens of Benicia and the nation. I was 10 when Pearl Harbor was attacked, 12 when my beloved uncle was shot down over North Africa, and 14 when the formal state of war finally ended. So the Benicia Herald articles bring back many memories. Military forces fought in strange parts of the world, advancing, retreating, suffering, and dying. At home, sugar, meat, butter, tires, and gasoline were all rationed. Folks started victory gardens and grew their own vegetables. We tightened our belts. Men were drafted. There were thousands of deaths. There were thousands of casualties and prisoners of war. So I, like many of you about my age, was brought up in a culture when war was normal. I did poorly in high school, but like many others, I remember the phrase from Horace that is also written in marble at the Arlington National Cemetery: Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. The formal cessation of hostilities in 1945 didn't really end the war. Aftershocks and low-scale conflict continued throughout the world. The French were losing control of Indochina and Algeria. Yugoslavia was tearing itself apart along religious lines. Spain's hold on West Africa grew weaker. Belgium was losing its very lucrative holdings in the Congo. Korea was becoming more polarized. Some aftershocks of World War II erupted into full-scale conflict involving the United States. The echoes and aftershocks continue to this very day, Memorial Day 2012, one day out of 365 when many Americans remember and honor our beloved military dead. In 1950, along with many of you, I suspect, I volunteered for the Korean War because I thought it was the sweet and proper thing to do. I retired with 20 years of service and after a brief interlude returned to the Army as a civilian employee
and served for another 20 years. I remember my comrades from the Korean War, a war that has not yet formally ended. I remember comrades killed in Vietnam. I remember soldiers going off to Desert Storm and subsequent operations in the Middle East. I remember our graves in the Philippines, in France, in Germany, and Italy. These were good soldiers, and I believe with every fiber of my being that God never made anything better than a good soldier. Conversely, I am convinced that those who profit from the loss of soldiers' lives are beneath our contempt. Gold Star mothers and grieving fathers, spouses, and their children remember their dead soldiers every day. For them, the image of the fallen soldier persists. It shapes their future. Today we will hear the bugle call, Taps, written during our bloody Civil War. Two unofficial verses are as follows. Day is done, gone the sun from the lake, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Then, good night, peaceful night, till the light of the dawn shineth forth. God is near, do not fear. Friend, good night.
Our next speaker is Lieutenant Colonel David Sentier, Commander 749th Combat Support Battalion, California National Guard. Lieutenant Colonel Sentier is a native of Madison, Wisconsin. He has been in the Army since 1988, when he joined the Army National Guard and the ROTC at the same time. He received his commission as Quartermaster Officer in 1990. During Operation Desert Storm, Lieutenant Colonel Sentier was a maintenance platoon leader. He has commanded companies from Wisconsin to California. In Sacramento, he served as the Deputy Inspector General for the California National Guard, assigned to the 115th Area Support Group in Roseville when it was mobilized for Operation Iraq Freedom in 2005 and 2006. Lieutenant Colonel, I'm having a hard time with that word, Colonel Sentier was the group supply and service officer when it went to Cambo, she's got it down here, Arifjan in Kuwait. He was a group support operations officer, promoted to lieutenant colonel in 2009. He is a career quartermaster and logistics, well, I'll let him tell you what he is, with more than 21 years of service, including 16 as active Guard Reserve officer. One reason Lieutenant Colonel Sentier chose to make the Army National Guard his career was its community-based, that it was community-based. In July, August, and September 2008, the soldiers of the 749th spent several weeks responding to wildfires across the states. Their assignment overseas was an unprecedented move for Benicia. It was the first time the 749th has been called to duty to go to war since its activation in 1947. Among Lieutenant Colonel Sentier's awards are the Bronze Star Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, the Army Commendation Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters, the Army Achievement Medal, the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, the California Medal of Merit, the Combat Action Badge, and numerous other federal and state awards.
I'm honored to be here today. What a beautiful day it is for a Memorial Day, and how fitting it is to have this Memorial Day ceremony to be held here at the Benicia Military Cemetery. There's so much history here at this cemetery, part of the Benicia Arsenal, which was a munitions depot for 113 years. We're all here today on this Memorial Day to honor and remember those American service members who made the ultimate sacrifice in our nation's wars. Each year, Memorial Day observances like this happen all across America. And in every year that I've attended a Memorial Day event, I'm encouraged to see more and more people recognizing our fallen military members. And it's with that in mind, I think it's very important to note that fewer Americans today serve in our armed forces. Although our nation has well over 300 million people, less than 1% of our citizens can claim that they at some point in time have worn the uniform of our armed forces. And it's because of that small number and the smaller number of the fallen, which makes Memorial Day even more important when we consider the price of freedom. I remember growing up as a kid in a small town in Wisconsin during the height of the Vietnam War. And as a kid, you could tell that when Memorial Day was just around the corner, when you would see members of the American Legion or the VFW standing in front of the grocery store or the gas station handing out red poppies. The town had a big Memorial Day celebration. Everyone would turn out for the parade, and it included the high school band, it included military equipment, soldiers marching, the American Legion and the VFW in their uniforms. It was the fire trucks, the flags, and everyone standing when a tribute was made to one of the fallen. And of course, who could forget the chicken barbecue at the park, sponsored by the American Legion and the VFW. As a veteran of 3 deployments to the Middle East, it encourages me every year to see the renewed interest in Memorial Day like it has been in the past. The first Memorial Day was not called Memorial Day, it was actually called Decoration Day. It was called Decoration Day because of women who would go to Civil War graveyards and decorate the graves of Civil War soldiers with flowers. This practice became very common nationwide. It's very difficult to determine the origin of this tradition. However, the first commemoration was done in Charleston, South Carolina in 1865. It was here at a graveyard for Union prisoners that freed slaves gave homage to the Union war dead. The practice of commemorating the Civil War dead and decorating their graves continued to grow throughout the country. Then on the 5th of May of 1868, General John Logan, head of a prominent veterans organization named the Grand Army of the Republic, observed how the war dead, both North and South, were being commemorated. And he made a proclamation calling on all communities nationwide to set aside one day as Decoration Day. And the date selected was the 30th of May, as this was the only day that a major battle had not been fought. A few decades later, the term Memorial Day started to be used, but it wasn't until after World War II that the term Memorial Day was more commonly used. And it wouldn't be until 1967 that Memorial Day would be recognized as a federal holiday. And then just a few years later, in 1971, Memorial Day was moved to the last Monday of the month. Another Memorial Day tradition is the wearing of red poppies. Moina Michael, inspired by the 1915 poem In Flanders Fields, began the tradition of wearing red poppies on Memorial Day to recognize those soldiers who had died in World War I. This practice became very popular, and it spread across the country into England and also France, and it's a tradition that lives on today. Memorial Day is a day to remember those service members who made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. In a speech made by General John Kelly in 2009, he recognized 2 Marines in Ramadi, Iraq, and they are Corporal Jonathan Yale and Corporal Jordan Hunter. These 2 Marines were on guard duty near a building housing 150 Marines when suddenly a large blue truck loaded with about 2,000 pounds of explosives crashed through the entry control point and headed in their direction. The nearby Iraqi police did what most normal people would do when facing certain death. They ran. Knowing that they only had seconds to stop the truck, the two Marines stood their ground. These two young Marines started firing their weapons nonstop at the fast approaching truck. And then there was a huge explosion which engulfed the Marines, killing them both. This whole scene was recorded on a security camera. And according to the camera footage, the two men never once flinched, nor did they try to step aside. In fact, they actually leaned forward into the danger as they fired their weapons. Their actions saved 150 of their fellow Marines. This past year in 2011, Specialist Brandon Hawking, age 24, a member of the 632nd Maintenance Company, a unit that belonged to my battalion when we were deployed to Iraq. Specialist Hawking was a turret gunner on a mine-resistant ambush protected vehicle, otherwise known as an MRAP. Now, the night of 21 March 2011, Specialist Hawking and his team, along with 4 other MRAPs, were providing a convoy escort for a large supply convoy returning to Cobb Adder when an IED struck the gunner's turret, killing Specialist Hawking. This soldier had been in Iraq for 11 months and was scheduled to go home only 2 weeks later. On 29 June 2011, near Wazid, Iraq, Captain Matt Nielsen and Captain David Van Camp, both company commanders in 2nd Squadron, 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, were killed when a rocket attack hit their command post. They were some of the last soldiers on the Cobb as they had just closed it and were in the process of handing over the Cobb to the Iraqi government. These are just a few of the stories about our fallen. And there are many, many, many more stories, as more than 1 million Americans have died in the wars that our nation has been involved with since the first colonial soldiers picked up arms in 1775. Many of these soldiers died protecting one another, but they also died so that they could keep and sustain the things that we love the most: God, country, and family. By remaining true to these principles, we honor their sacrifice. Memorial Day is often recognized as the unofficial beginning of summer. It's boating, it's beaches, picnics, and auto racing. All of these things are fine. In fact, they're good. However, we must not lose focus on what Memorial Day means. It's a day to remember our nation's fallen. We must not forget that what those heroes have done and what their loved ones have lost. Although we remember our fallen once a year, the widows, the widowers, the fathers and mothers, brothers, sisters, and children remember every day. It's the empty seat at the dinner table, the small gathering on a holiday, and the voice of a loved one heard only as a distant memory in one's mind, are the constant reminders that they are gone. Whether one fought in World War II, Korea, in the jungles of Vietnam, in Iraq or Afghanistan, the stories of American heroism and sacrifice continue to resonate. It is important that we all pause to reflect on and remember our many heroes, as all gave some, but some gave all. We owe them no less. In the 11 years of conflict in Afghanistan and Iraq, 6,465 Americans gave their lives in the service of our nation. 11 of these men and women are from our local area. And I would like to honor them by reading their names so we can remember them on this Memorial Day. Master Sergeant Jude Mariano, United States Army, Vallejo, killed 10 February 2004 in Doha. Corporal Mick Nygaard Bukowski, United States Marine Corps, Concord, killed 6 September 2004, Fallujah, Iraq. Lance Corporal Eric Hodges, United States Marine Corps, Bay Point, killed 10 November 2004 in Fallujah. Lance Corporal Philip West, United States Marine Corps, American Canyon, killed 19 November 2004, Fallujah. First Lieutenant Dustin Shumney, United States Marine Corps, Vallejo, killed 26 January 2005, Aratuba, Iraq. PFC Benjamin Zeiske, United States Army, Concord, killed 3 May 2006, Kirkuk, Iraq. Master Sergeant Patrick Magnani, United States Army, Martinez, killed 4 September 2007, Bagram, Afghanistan. PFC Jennifer Cole, United States Army, American Canyon, killed 2 August 2008, Beji, Iraq. Private Benjamin Tollefson, United States Army, Concord, 31 December 2008, Balad, Iraq. PFC Scott Barnett, United States Army, Concord, killed 28 January 2010, Talil, Iraq. Specialist Barrett Fant, United States Army, American Canyon, killed 26 September 2011, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. We honor these brave men and women who gave their lives in the service of our country. It's because they were willing to give all, we are free today. And as long as we have such men and women who are willing to risk it all, our nation will endure. Thank you all for being here today. It's been a great honor and privilege to be here to speak before you today. May God bless our veterans, our fallen, their families, and may God bless America.
Our buglers today for taps and reprise are Chris O'Brien and Christina O'Brien. Chris was awarded a full scholarship to the University of Michigan for trumpet performance. Christina just beat her brother in their most recent trumpet competition together in March. Last year they were ranked first and second trumpets in the state of California. We are grateful for their participation in today's ceremony. The colors will be retired after taps, call, and reprise. Please rise and remain standing until the buglers have finished taps.
One of the things that you all know that every service member does is they swear an oath. And when you go to, on these deployments especially, I know everybody can mirror the same thing. You don't realize how much these soldiers truly live up to this oath, whether they're thinking about it every day or not. They selflessly act it out, and they do it on a regular basis. So today, I will reaffirm my military oath, and all military people, present and former, are absolutely welcome to do it as well. So I, Orrin Ray, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. Thank you.
Chairs and tables were set up with the help from Dr. Jeff Graves and Dr. Tom Campbell. Denise McCoy and Rick Cook from Amports for helping with traffic control and transportation. A video of today's ceremony will be available on the Benicia Historical Society's website. On behalf of the Benicia Historical Society, I would like to invite you to join us for some light refreshments and thank you all for taking part in this year's Memorial Day ceremony. Please take the time to appreciate our historic cemetery and thank a veteran or member of the military for their service. On the back of your program, you'll see an application to join the society. It doesn't cost much, but it means a whole lot to us that work together to preserve our historical memories and buildings and our history in Benicia. Thank you so much.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean white with foam.